Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hey Hana. I am your host, Hannah Ostapchuk. I am so excited to be talking. The fact that I just hit record and I'm like, hello, hi, here we are. I've only been talking about this for like a year now. So it gets to that point where your friends, your loved ones, your boyfriend, your mom, they're like, okay, are you going to do the thing? Like, I've just been talking about it for a long time. So here we are. Also, bear with me. I'm getting over a cold. I don't know what this is. I've had like a constant cold for the past, I want to say month now. So if you hear me sniffling, that's why, but we're on the way out. We're in like the last day or two. So we're here. I'm so happy to be recording. Like I said, I've been wanting to do this podcast for a long time. I'm sitting on my living room floor drinking coffee because I was like, you know what? We're just going to do it. I mean, I don't have a set. I don't have like cool background that is memorable. Like I wanted to do all these things in my dream mind, and I've worked as a producer, so I'm like, oh, I want to, have the lights and the whatever. You guys, I don't have it. I'm in my apartment. I'm also, and again, I'm sitting on my floor. I'm also getting married next month, so my brain is, there's just like a lot going on up there. I'm also expecting I'm pregnant. I don't know why I just like had a short circuit. I'm pregnant. I'm expecting my first child. So first time mom to be. And I'm so excited. I don't know why I just had the hardest time saying that. I wanted to talk in my first episode about trusting your timeline. I think that everyone feels so behind at some point in their life. And this is something that rings so true to me. Something that I've struggled with for so long. And still, even though I'm like in the season where so many things are happening and I'm moving a million miles a minute, it's still this feeling of needing to ground myself and feel like I have trust in my timeline and that I can do the things that I want to do and I still have time to do them. So I want to talk a little bit about that. But before I go into that topic, you might be like, hi, hello, what are you doing? Like, why are we here? Why are we doing a podcast? So there are three main reasons why I wanted to do this podcast. Number one is my background in broadcasting. I have been working in broadcasting for over a decade, so about 12 years now. I've recently taken a break. I now work as a full-time graphic designer. Ever since moving to the Midwest, TV just looks a little different here than it did when I was living in New York City. But I got my start working at Fox Sports Florida. I mean, I won't even get into it all. I worked at CBS Sports. I've done a lot of sports journalism, a lot of sports broadcasting, a little stint in entertainment. I did that for some time. And then I did a little bit of morning television, which was so fun because I was able to live I don't know if anyone else watched Full House growing up, but I always wanted to be Rebecca Donaldson and Danny Tanner in Wake Up San Francisco. So that was fun. Did that for a little bit. But yeah, I come from a world of broadcasting and it's very natural for me to like want to talk about things and want to, broadcast. So here we are. We're doing that. Another reason why I wanted to do this was because this sort of like, I don't want to say secret side of me because it's not something I've purposely kept secret or kept hidden. It's just like obviously not television. So it's not as public as that first realm of my life is mentoring. I've privately worked as a mentor for quite some time, really my whole life. I think it started when I was, middle school, high school. I would mentor girls who were younger than me and I would do this through my church or through different programs just locally. And I did that really all throughout my entire high school and college. I dabbled in that as well. And then I got into it again in my 20s and my late 20s, honestly. Like right around COVID when I turned 30, I worked as a youth director for my church. So during that time, I was mentoring students and working with kids at the high school level and who are entering college. And it was so fun for me. But that is such a pure part of me that I feel like I've always had a passion to talk about. Like I've always wanted to talk about like the coming of age things and sort of those, I don't even know how to explain it, but like my middle school and high school experience, I spent Googling everything I could. Like I had so many questions about how to live life. And all I could do was ask ask older girls or look to older girls to what they were doing or what they were saying. So I know there's a lot of that in the world now, but it's something I'm just passionate about. And I come from a life of quietly doing it. And, I worked in sports. I could never just like interrupt and be like, by the way, if you have any advice on girlhood, this is something that has just been natural for me, that's come natural to me for years. And I've always wanted to give it a platform. But again, coming from sports, I could never interject with something as personal as girlhood or womanhood in sports journalism, as I should never do. So I just long for those like deep talks, those, like being the friend that you need, those types of conversations. And I'm drawn to that organically. The third reason why I'm doing this podcast is because I, like I said earlier in the show, I am engaged and I'm about to become a mom at the same time. So there's a lot happening and there's a lot of changes happening for me personally. This is a completely new chapter, one that I have come to rather quickly and have not had the opportunity to like really sit in and like relish in. Like, I don't know anything about it. I crave that deeper connection with women who are on the same platform as me or women who are just had their first baby. Like, I'm like, oh my God, tell me everything. Like, how are you feeling in week 20 and da 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 da. When I found out I was pregnant, my routine was like going to the gym, and forgive me for saying that because like even my gym time at that time, quote unquote, was rough. It was pretty rough. I was just doing my best. So I would go to the gym and I would sit there and I would search on podcasts women who were in their first trimester who have been experiencing this for the first time. How did she feel in week 5? Did she feel like she could talk about this? Was she experiencing that? Like, I was constantly looking for some sort of perspective that would help me feel like, okay, I'm not crazy. This is normal, or you know what I mean? Like, I just needed that fellow companionship. And still now it's so funny. Because I'm going to be a pregnant bride, I am constantly looking for women who have been pregnant brides. Like, I'm like wanting to find someone who's been through that same experience. I literally searched every podcast that Morgan Stewart has ever done just to hear if she mentions it at all. By the way, she doesn't mention it too much. So if you want that information, don't bother. I've also always valued my female friendships. They've always been the most important thing to me. In terms of relationships, I've relied on them. I used to say that I would be in a ditch without them, and I I fully believe that. I've had my friends for a long time. Kim Kardashian calls her friends her lifers. Great, whatever. I'll use it. Like, the girls that I've had in my life are my girls for life. So, and they sometimes know what I need before I know what I need. Some of them surprised me for my engagement party, and that was something that I didn't realize I needed at the time. I was like, "Oh, you want to come?" I had no idea. I didn't realize it was that big of a deal for my friends to come, to the Midwest. I considered that like a big annoying trip. So, but it wasn't to them. It was something they wanted to do. I say that all because this is a season of craving that female connection and needing it. And so I wanted to be able to supply a platform. Okay, I had to pause. I have like the biggest frog in my throat. So sorry about that. Um, Again, I'm just getting over this cold a little bit here. So I, what was I saying? I was talking about how I'm craving female connection. Yes, obviously. I think we all are. I think at every stage of life, there are so many daunting things that happen as a female where you're like, WTF? Like, what am I doing? I've thought that for most of my life. And even though I am in this phase where my life is much slower than it used to be, um, and I'm entering this stage of becoming a wife and these things I've dreamt about and prayed about for so long, I'm I still have such a level of confusion about what I'm entering. So it just goes to show that even if you feel like you've made it in one thing, you're confused about the next. So I've just always wanted to sort of connect on that level with girls and women who are going through the same things. Okay, so let's go back to the main topic here that I wanted to talk about today. This is all about trusting your timeline. And I bring this up because I'm entering this unique season of my life. First time mom, first time wife. Can I say that? That sounds weird. And I want to talk about this because it is trusting your own timeline is a mind game, like a true mind game. It is the thing that you scroll on social media, and even if you wake up and you feel marvelous that day, you're having a great Saturday. Let's say you walk down the street, you get a cappuccino, you have plans to meet your friend for lunch, you're about to have a great day. And you just see someone either from your past or a complete stranger entering a phase of life that you don't have access to yet. It is like a direct trigger. I hate the word trigger, but I'm just using it in this example. It makes you feel so inferior. Like it just makes you feel small and like shit, like I'm not there yet. I've had that feeling so many times in life. And so I wanted to talk about why trusting your timeline is your greatest asset. Okay, so a few things I want to talk about this. I'm going to make 3 points with this and why trusting your timeline is so important. Number one, your story is really not supposed to match anyone else's. This is the number one thing to remember. And this is like, it sounds cheesy, but it's so true. You were designed to carry out your story in the timeline that it is created. I firmly believe that. Like, I just believe that some things happen early for some people, some things happen late for some people. Whatever it was, it is to your benefit. Like, it is actually going to help you. And you have to remember that. There are so many people I follow online where I would like go on Instagram and I see that, oh, you know what used to kill me is like the posts that girls would write where they would like turn 30 and they'd be like, this is 30 or like, this is 32. And it's them with their 4 kids and their husbands and their house. And I'm like, cool. Is that ever going to happen to me? I'm like sitting in my New York apartment trying to make ends meet and, you know, seemingly living this like fabulous single life. And of course, it was fun and fabulous and all that too, but it's also hard. There's moments of every season that are really, really difficult. So, but that feeling of like, oh my gosh, am I ever going to get to that? I don't know what you want to get to. For me, I was always trying to find a healthy relationship, a long-term relationship, a relationship that I felt proud to be in. I felt respected. And I felt like it was a good, healthy, long-term relationship. I was working towards that. Obviously, eventually becoming a wife. And I've always wanted to be a mom. So, like, those 3 things were always huge on my list. Now, I've also always been working for career goals. For a long time, I would like put all the personal stuff aside and only worked on career because I was like, you know, you could work really hard in a relationship and it's still you're gonna end up at 0 level. So I might as well work in my career because I'm never gonna start again at 0, which is kind of funny because obviously life happens and that's very possible. But anyways, I say all that to say, as somebody who's now in a season where I got what I quote unquote prayed for or wanted in that time. So I have a fiance and I have a baby on the way. And I am like so over the moon. I don't even have words to describe the feeling of having that right now. I say this because what often feels late. I spent so many years feeling like this was late. I was late to the game. I didn't have X, Y, and Z. I didn't have a fiance. I didn't have any of that stuff. Is actually right on time. And now that I'm in a season where I have this next chapter, I don't feel ever like I'm late to it. It's almost irrelevant to me. I've never thought about it once. And so remember that. Remember that your timeline is individualized. Like, remember that your story is not supposed to match up with anyone else's. That's number one. And again, you can always go back to that and like find something in your life that you know you got access to at a different time where other people have a more difficult time getting access to it, if that makes any sense. It could be friendship. It could be, you know, getting into the university that you wanted to get into. It could be retiring when you wanted to retire. There's so many things. Remember that one thing that you did and that was a blessing for you, and hold on to that and know that it will happen. Of course it's going to happen. And once you get it, you're not thinking like, oh God, yeah, that took me a long time. You're thinking, no, I have it. Great. Moving on. My second point is that this is the most annoying thing to say, but those delays are often a really great preparation. I talk to some of my single girlfriends about this now. Again, I talk about always craving like, you know, a healthy relationship. When I had met Peter, him and I always talk about my fiance. Him and I always talk about now, if we had met even like a year before, even like 6 months before, it wouldn't have worked. Our timing was so perfect. It had to have been at that time. And learning more about him and his relationships and what he's been through and my relationships and sort of like talking about them in comparison and timeline wise, it's like those delays that we were given, quote unquote delays, were actually just preparing us for a season of like the utmost healthiest relationship. Does that make sense? And it's so annoying when I think about some of my friends and family who have like been in relationships for a really long time. I'm like, well, why didn't they have stuff to work out? Like my friends who got married at 24, I'm like, they didn't have things to learn. They didn't have things to prep for. Why did I have things to prep for? Why do other people have years of things to prep for before a relationship? Like, it doesn't seem fair. It really doesn't seem fair, but you have to remember that You're being guided and protected in this season, and it will all fizzle out in a way that makes sense. It's actually not supposed to make sense right now. I always think that. There's so many relationships or like situationships I was in that I wanted to see come full circle and they never did. And it's like now looking at it back, it was never going to work. And did I need that lesson? No. I don't think that every situationship that doesn't work out is supposed to be a lesson. Like I actually don't believe that. But I do think that it helps prepare you for where you're supposed to be ultimately. You just don't know it yet. Like you have no idea. Peter and I always tell the story where we were in the same place at the same time, like a few times. Like there were a few Super Bowls that we were both at. And there was one trip where I was in Vegas the same time he was and we met. It was just so funny. My cousin had to remind me of this. I barely remembered it, but yes, I did introduce myself to him and his group of friends at the time, which is so embarrassing. Whatever. I say this all because like I didn't even think anything about meeting him. I just was like, oh, that man is so beautiful. And then I just like kept it moving. And now when we like count back and look at that time, it's like, oh my God, we could have never like talked or we could have never had a thing. It wouldn't have worked. It just wouldn't have worked at all. It's so funny. So yeah, I say this and I'm talking about relationships here as my example, but like this really could be anything. Like this could be that job. This could be moving out of the town that you've lived in. It really could be so many things. So whatever that season is that you're waiting for, just know that this opportunity will not miss you and that this delay is some sort of preparation. And you have to sort of embrace that even though it seems really unfair at times. And this brings me to the third reason why you should trust your timeline. Sorry, I'm doing so many threes today. That was unintentional. I'm like, 3 reasons why I started a podcast, 3 reasons, ba 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 ba. I won't do that every time. I'm so sorry. But the third reason that you should trust your timeline is that, and this all comes full circle, and I've said this a few times, in hindsight, it makes sense. In real time, it does not make sense. And I think if you take a minute and look back at any chapter of your life, you'll realize that's a bit of a thread, right? Even if it's a thing you wanted or a thing you didn't want, and it just happened to you, you're like, yeah, that's why I did that. Or like, oh, that's why I had to, change my major. Or, oh, that's why that friendship had to end. That's why that job moved me to a new place. Whatever happened, big or small in your life, there's always those moments where you're like, oh, that makes so much sense now. I understand why that had to happen, whether it was a thing you hoped for or not. I say that because remember that in these seasons of feeling like, oh my gosh, my timeline is not working or, it's taking too long. It's not supposed to make sense right now. It's just not. It's like this weird, ironic thing that happens in any season of waiting or any season of feeling like you're losing trust. The clarity is supposed to come later, and it's part of the gift of seeing that thing. A quick example of this is, and this is an example I use frequently for a lot of different reasons because it just proved to have a ton of lessons in my life, was I wanted to go to Syracuse University really badly. Prayed for Syracuse, worked hard for Syracuse, got in, early decision, but I didn't get in for what I wanted to go there for, which was journalism. Again, you guys know I watch Full House. I wanted to be Danny Tanner. I wanted to do journalism my whole life. I got in for my second option, which was child psychology, which was fun, but like not what I wanted. So I went there for that and I was like, you know what? I'm going to work to be in Newhouse, this journalism school. I worked at it. I kept trying to get in. I could not get in for the life of me. I was at Syracuse for about 3 years. I eventually had to transfer out. You would have thought my like whole family died. The way I acted when I had to leave Syracuse was the end of my world because it was what I worked for so long and I wanted it for so long. And I was like, why? I had met so many people who were in the journalism program and who were like, yeah, I'm only in here because it's a good school. I don't really like journalism. And I was like, ugh, I wanted it so badly. I eventually transferred out. My cousin, who's like a sister to me, she's like my best friend, Alyssa, was at a small school in Jacksonville, University of North Florida, which is a great school. At the time, I thought, you know what? I think I'll just go there. I don't actually remember the season of life. I gotta remember what I was thinking and how I ended up there. I just remember thinking Alyssa was there, so it was safe for me. So I was like, let me just finish it up there. Got my journalism degree and had my head down and wanted to get through school. I had a year and a half left. In hindsight, I now think going back, I probably would have just skipped Syracuse altogether and gone right to University of North Florida. Only because A, it was a beautiful experience. I met really wonderful people who like became good friends of mine. I had the best time living with my cousin, Alyssa, and I was able to be, because I knew I wanted to do journalism and broadcasting, I was able to be this big fish in a small pond and had these opportunities. I immediately went into sports journalism and like hosted the morning news there, which I never would have been able to do at Syracuse because it was so many kids who wanted to do that same thing. So I just had no idea that that's what I was walking into and that that's how that was going to shape out for me. And I had to go this weird route to get there. So I say all of that to say, in hindsight, it's all going to add up. Like, it's all going to make sense. But in real time, you're going to be like, what the heck am I doing? I mean, like when I left Syracuse again, like I thought my world was shattered and I thought I had totally failed and I was a big fat dummy and I couldn't get into whatever. And even going to UNF, like getting in there, I still felt like, oh my gosh, this isn't going to get me to where I need to be. And I'm telling you, after that, it was like boom, boom, boom. I was able to immediately get a great job after school. Like it all just worked out. So the clarity comes later, like I said, and your future self will be grateful for that. Okay, I'm going to wrap things up here because I've already been talking for a bit. And I don't want to make these podcasts too long. So I'm going to keep trying to do this. Now, I will have to take some breaks because, like I said, I'm getting married next month. So I'm going to take some time off of that. And then I am also having a baby in March. So I will be taking some time off for that. But I've heard a lot about the third trimester and how it brings you like a ton of crazy energy. So that will be January, February, March, where I like really hope to dive into this more too and have some good conversations and maybe even talk to someone about third trimester and what I can expect because Lord knows I have no idea. But because I want to make this more of like a little community here, I wanted to give you guys a freebie. If you've listened to this far, I wanted to give you guys a little freebie. I told you I work as a graphic designer now. And one thing I have done for myself for so many years is make these phone wallpapers. I know it's so silly, but if you guys want phone wallpapers, I've made a few and I've just made them easy downloads for you guys. So you can enter your email at my link in my Instagram bio or on my website. And it'll send to you. It'll send to your inbox. I also have a mini newsletter that's coming so once you enter that freebie, you'll get access to that newsletter if you want, and we can go from there. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was that I wanted to do a little bit of like a question and answer segment. I don't know if this is crazy to do, and I feel like I'm not going to have anyone ask me any questions for a while. That's totally fine. But when this does happen, when questions do start rolling in, I would really love to answer any advice that you guys have, about confidence, friendships, relationships, womanhood, job change, anything that you guys want to talk about. I'm totally game. And that is also on my website and at my link in bio on Instagram. I'm calling it the Hey Hana Hotline. I feel like that'd be a really fun way to connect and just have some fun conversations that are a little bit different than the topics I prepared for you guys. But yeah, I feel like that's everything I wanted to talk about. Thank you guys so much for being here. This was so fun. I can't believe I talked for this long. And if you listened this far, I love you so much. I want to give you a big fat smooch. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And share it with a friend. Love you guys. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.